Max Ringelheim, who is here from Miami, Florida.
Yes.
And is a UB grad who you're going to talk all about your experience here at UB. But one thing I learned about you today is you're a big fan of the buffalo chicken wraps here in the student evening.
Come on, there's other fans of buffalo chicken wraps here, right? Come on.
Difficult thing to order. We have apps that we order these things up. It's very different. But do you want to
take it away?
All right.
Cool. Let's do it. What's up, everyone? How's everyone doing today? Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. Thanks for allowing me to speak to y'all. I can't wait. My name is Max Ringelheim. I graduated from the University of Buffalo in May of 2011. Got some familiar faces here. Martin Cass-Stevens, a mentor of mine back in my undergrad days. That has helped me set myself up for the entrepreneurial path you'll learn a little bit more about today. But I'm really, really excited to be here and to basically engage you guys in a really awesome workshop I'm going to be hosting today. It's called When Going Viral, The Rise and Fall of the Hoverboard. I assume some of you guys here in this room are familiar with those hoverboard devices, right? Yes, the ones that start blowing up and catching fire. Okay, yes. So I was the guy that was responsible for starting that product fad, along with two other co-founders of mine back in 2015. And you are going to learn about the rise and fall of that said venture of mine through a really interactive, fun, high-energy workshop. So all of you guys are going to be engaged in the presentation. It's going to be really freaking awesome. And without further ado, you ready to get started?
Yeah.
Cool. Let's do it. All right. So for an agenda for today, I'll give you a quick background on myself. We're going to go into the introduction of the hoverboard story. We're then going to talk about the viral traction that this product and company of mine experienced. Followed by that, we're going to have these two breakout sessions. Okay, they're cliffhanger moments where I'm going to leave you guys faced with having to put yourself in my shoes back during this hoverboard experience of mine, okay? I'm going to pose these really challenging questions that you're going to get like 5 minutes in groups to work on. And Tom, the teams are in groups right now, right? Or is everyone sort of in their groups? Or
I put together groups now, so we've organically formed groups at the table.
Okay, I mean, I'm cool with organic, you're cool with organic, so beautiful. Awesome. And very simply, we'll then, as we go through both of those breakout sessions, we'll talk about how the story ultimately ended up unfolding, the lessons learned from it, any Q&A that we have at the end, all right? It's going to be really awesome. Beautiful. So in terms of who am I? First and foremost, I'm 31 years old. I live in Miami, Florida. I'm a born and bred New Yorker, though, originally from Long Island, New York, if any of you are familiar with the Long Beach area. And I basically became addicted to entrepreneurship back in college. As Martin Cass-Stevens knows, raise your hand, Martin, so everyone knows. Maybe the smartest guy in the room here, guys. So if you want good answers to the questions, I gravitate towards Martin. But very simply, I became addicted to entrepreneurship while at University at Buffalo through the Panache competition. For any of you guys that are familiar with it, it's this really awesome business plan competition here at Buffalo that for all of you who are in an entrepreneurship-focused class, I would strongly, strongly suggest you at a bare minimum take a look at the competition, see how maybe you can get involved with it. And very simply, after winning $10,000 in the Panache competition in May 2012, I was lucky enough to work on a video conferencing software company called Vonvo.com, which you're seeing along the right-hand side. It was kind of like a hybrid of Google Hangouts meets Kickstarter, you can think of it as. And then in 2015 is when I had the opportunity to co-found what was 2015's most popular hoverboard brand called Funky Duck. Okay? So, with a little quick icebreaker, by a show of hands, how many people here in the class today have ever dreamed of starting a company, or maybe have actually started a company, or been responsible for maybe launching a new product or a campaign? By a show of hands, how many of you have ever had that opportunity? Awesome. Keep your hands raised. Keep your hands raised. Of everyone with their hands up, right? How many of you maybe hoped and wished and dreamed that this product or campaign or company might just go viral, right? I assume most of you guys have your hands up still, right? Okay, well guess what? I'm here today, guys, to tell you that sometimes going viral fucking sucks, okay? And I really mean it. Sometimes it can really backfire, as you'll learn today during the story. It can have some really, really awesome highs, but some pretty crappy lows, okay? However, my friends, if the proper planning is done to allow for virality to thrive, it can be absolutely awesome, okay? And that's what, as you might guess, is some of what this workshop's going to entail, today's class is going to entail, okay? But without further ado, are you guys ready to get this party started? Okay? It's going to be nuts. It's going to be a little bit of a roller coaster. You guys ready? Buckle up. All right, let's do it. Okay, so how did it all get started? Well, it all got started back in October of 2014 during the Canton Fair in Guangzhou, China. Okay? You might be able to see in the background, looks like there's like a big trade show fair happening in the background of the slide, right? That is a snapshot of what happens at the Canton Fair. It's one of these massive trade shows in China, okay? Where you have hundreds, if not thousands of vendors, right? Selling all different types of cool products and the like. And, you know, my two soon-to-be roommates and the founders were over in China looking for new products for their mobile accessories company. They had a company that sold like iPhone cases, earbuds, and they were in China looking for new products for this mobile accessories company, okay? And they're walking around this trade show floor, and they're looking for new products, right? And lo and behold, they stumble across this hoverboard-looking device, right? It wasn't called a hoverboard at that point, but this two-wheeled device that everyone was, you know, that this particular vendor was showcasing at their booth. And they instantly fall in love with it, okay? Like, instantly. They just love at first glance, right? Like Cupid's arrow type of shit, okay? And they absolutely fall in love with it. And they decide, as you can imagine, right, as they were looking for new products to sell here in the States, they decided to purchase a couple of hoverboard units and bring them back to the U.S., to Queens, New York, where I was going to be living with them. And, you know, as you're going to learn shortly, starting this business with them. So, well, what happens next? We're going to fast forward a little bit. From November 2014 through like February 2015, you know, these two friends of mine, they come back here to the States with these hoverboards. They show me the product, like, Max, get rid of that video conferencing software company, man. You know, it's not working out. Come and, you know, start this hoverboard business with us, right? It's going to be freaking awesome. Look at this thing. And I look at the product and I'm equally fascinated by it, right? Like this two-wheel device, there's no handlebars, you just put your feet on it and you go, right? It was freaking awesome. And so I also become fascinated with it and think that it can be huge, okay? And so what do I decide to do? Well, I decide to leave Von. Okay, I leave in January 2015. I decided to partner up with these two friends of mine, move in with them into their apartment in Queens, New York, and, you know, we start strategizing on the launch plans of this magical device. I mean, I don't know how else to put it, like magical device that no one had ever seen before here in the States. And, you know, during this sort of 3-month, 4-month time period, we moved the company, what was in our basement of our apartment in Queens, New York, we moved it into a larger office on Long Island. At the same time, here's what happens, guys. Every time we ride this frickin' hoverboard around, people's jaws just drop. They are like driving in their car and they see us like riding along on our hoverboard and they just like stop in the middle of the road to try and understand what the hell we're doing. Like riding this thing, how we're like basically floating along on the streets on this hoverboard device without any effort whatsoever, and they're just astonished by it, right? And we started to notice this time after time, that people were just consistently just engaged, enthralled in this product of ours that we were riding around on, okay? And so, what happens next? Well, my friends, what happens next? We get to March, April 2015, and we have these lovely ladies in the background of our slide here who, you know, start to get involved in our business. Here's how. The founders, my two roommates, they take a trip out to California. And they're out in California actually at a little retail trade show event. And it was actually, in fact, with a store that had taken a liking to our hoverboard product when they saw us featuring it at a particular trade show. And so they're out in California for a week, and they serendipitously meet this guy named Dave. I kid you not, okay? They meet this guy completely randomly in the parking lot of this retail store named Dave. And Dave, guys, is friends with every celebrity on the planet, okay? I kid you not. Like when I say Dave is best friends with everyone you can imagine, whether it's LeBron or your, you know, D-status, you know, TikTok celebrity, or at the time it was Vine that was really killing it, okay? He is friends with everyone, okay? And Dave sees this product, and he absolutely falls in love with it as well, okay? Catching the trend, right? People are pretty enthralled by the product, right? He absolutely falls in love with the product. My two roommates, they stay out in California for the week. They hang out with Dave a little bit more, they get to know him a bit better, they see that he's super legit, go out to a couple of parties with him, and once my two roommates get back to Queens, New York, guess what? There's all of a sudden a serious rumor that Kendall Jenner from the Kardashian family wants one of our hoverboards. So what do you think happens then? Well, we get super freaking excited, right? Like, Will Ferrell in Elf excited. Who has seen that movie, right? That's how excited we start getting about this opportunity, right? Kendall Jenner wants to promote us, our like little, hoverboard brand out on Long Island, New York. Like what? So we're super excited by the news, okay? And people would absolutely kill for this type of promotion, right? And the best news about it, she's not asking for like $1 million from us. She's asking for one free hoverboard. And she will work with us and promote our company for one free hoverboard. That's it. And so although we're not like officially launched yet, okay, like we're still in the early infancy of the business, we had just created like a website, we had some units, about 24 units in stock, so we had some units to ship out if we needed. But we're not like quote unquote officially launched yet, but we're super excited by this opportunity. So what happens next is we start to think, well, what are we going to do? Are we going to work with Kendall Jenner? Should we do it? The things that we were thinking about at the time were influencer marketing, this is back in 2015, so maybe not as super familiar as the term is these days, but we start thinking, wow, this could be really a great go-to market strategy for this product. Getting the product in different celebrities' hands, that could be a really effective go-to market strategy. And Kendall's following at this point is one of the largest in the world, over 50 million followers at the time. And the opportunity to work with Kendall at essentially zero cost, right? We're just thinking like this could be too good to be true, / like, is this kind of the shoot your shot moment that you're just gonna like let you pass by, right? Those are kind of like the thoughts that we're thinking about pretty proactively as we're trying to think if we're gonna work together with her. And so what do you think happens next? Well, what happens next is we get to our cliffhanger breakout session. Okay, this is number 1 of 2, okay? I'm gonna give you guys now 2 minutes to ask me whatever questions that you have up until this point in the story. If you ask me a question that's gonna give away what happens next, I'm not gonna answer it. But if you guys have any questions that will help clarify where we're at in the story, what you're then going to get is 5 minutes to collaborate at each of your tables with your group members on the following questions. Based on what you know so far, what are the next steps you would attempt to take in launching this business successfully? And how would you handle the Kendall Jenner situation? So, it is 12:59 right now. You have 2 minutes to ask me whatever questions you want up until this point in the story. And then you're going to get into your breakout groups for 5 minutes to come up with like quick back of napkin solutions to these 2 questions. You'll share your answers. I'll give you some feedback, and then we'll move on with the rest of the story. Sound good? Yeah. Okay, who's got a question? Boom, go ahead. What's your name?
Willem. What is
Nice to meet you.
with the production? Would it like skyrocket high to get so much information?
Yeah, so you should assume at this point in the story, ahead of getting into the answers to these questions, that if we needed additional units, right, additional hoverboards, we have a direct relationship with our factory, okay, and we can call them up and they can ship over, let's say another 100 hoverboards, 200 hoverboards. We have the cash flow in our bank to put out 100 grand if we need for, another 500 hoverboards, okay? We have that type of money at our disposal to do that. Does that answer your question, or is there another follow-up to that?
I just think, what my question was is, I think I would be scared that I could not, after you put this online, it gets like, people see this product, I want it, but you
Yeah, that's a real worry. And if that's a worry,
fill out the asking of the public.
understood. Who else got a question? Go ahead.
At the time, did you guys have direct confirmation that she would uphold her end of the deal?
You should absolutely be thinking that yes, she's going to uphold her end of the bargain and this end of the deal. That's right. You should absolutely be thinking that. Go ahead.
So what were your concerns with working with Kendall?
So at the moment, I kind of highlighted in the 2 slides before what some of the things we were thinking about from a concern standpoint, as your fellow student over there mentioned, right? The amount of demand, that's a concern, right? 50 million followers, what type of demand is going to come from this? Keep in mind, we're selling our hoverboard for $1,500 at this time. $1,500, okay? So this is a premium product, okay? There's no dinky $200 hoverboard, okay? This is a premium patented hoverboard from China that we're selling. Last 2 questions, then we're going to get into the breakout groups. You 2 are together, so go ahead, quick.
Yeah,
You're fine.
Were you guys the only one like doing hoverboards at that time, or
You should
there was
absolutely
no
think-
competition
You
at
should
all?
absolutely think that we are like the only one here in the States. Maybe there's one other competitor that might be popping up in the next coming weeks ahead,
Okay.
but we are first to market here with this product, okay? No one knows about it. Go ahead, you.
Do you have any second thoughts about letting go of your previous company?
Yes, but let's leave that type of stuff for afterwards, because I want to make sure we have enough time to get through the whole breakout here. Cool? Awesome. And one more.
Was the factory producing your hoverboards also in China?
Correct. The factory is in China that's producing the hoverboards. We call them up, we say we need hoverboards. They ship them overnight via air freight, right? Oftentimes, it might not be exactly overnight, but we have this closure from the factory that we can get hoverboards within, let's say, a 7 business day period if we make that call. Okay, that's the mindset that we're in and that we've been told. Is that clear?
Yep.
Okay. Go ahead, last one.
Sorry, so if
You're
you're
fine.
selling it for $1,500, how much did the manufacturer receive from you?
Yeah, so you should be essentially thinking that it costs us about $500 between the product and shipping to get it over here to the US. Answer your question?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, you got 5 minutes to go and answer these 2 questions starting now. Go. How would you handle it? Then you'll share your answers. So someone nominate one another from your group to share the answers.
I think the Kendall is probably something that I would be thinking about at this point, because it's like an opportunity that's like during like you can, I think that should be the first order of business at this point. Like, do you want to do this or not? Rather than it's like an opportunity that
we have 250. We sold them all for 1,500, no problem, and people still want more of that. You just raise the price so that you can get more money, because people are still willing to pay because you're the only person selling it. So if they want them that bad,
Right, or is anticipating this type of
I think he also said that they had like a proposal and practice in China, so it's like a good thing.
And it also seems like they had no brick and mortar, but I should have asked him that. So it seems like everything is being done with online. So I definitely think that, I don't know, maybe just like,
What about the shipping? You know, sometimes people will call you.
Yeah, it did happen. Yeah, so that was the only one. It was exactly the same. It's just like
They have it. 1 more minute.
I bet je dat. In Nederland praten is wel leuk. Hoe zou je dat afhandelen? Hoe zou je dat doen? Ja? Zo resten gratis. Ik denk gewoon gelijk, ik heb gewoon gelijk een hier, doe een bordje hier zo. Ja, ik zou oprecht twijfelen.
en Instagram.
Je liet het gestoord zijn.
Liefst gepost. Komen mensen langer dan mij is ook
Top of mind, right? Another thing that we're looking for top of mind is probably the demand factor, right?
customer validation to make sure that this price point is something that would make for a good, like, healthy demand?
Yeah, I mean, so from our side, having the premium version of the product, or patented version of the product, having the price point be as high as it was, we felt like we kind of established ourselves as a premium brand.
Premium brand, okay.
Make sense?
So with you guys bringing the premium brand, do you expect for it to be a household item?
Yeah, I think so.
You thought that it had the chance to, absolutely, right? Because all of the jaws are dropping, right? Running around, so absolutely thought that there was no chance to be a
Ik heb echt wel weer een feestje gemist, hè? Dat is eigenlijk een ander
No, we
feestje.
thought, yeah. We were intending to think of it. Last question.
With the increase in production, where'd you get your food?
Ik ben huiskamer.
So we were comfortable at that $500 range, right? Because if you think about it, if you're working up to $1,000,
Right.
it's pretty healthy, right? Plus 5 bucks together, we're selling for $1,500.
Heel vaak.
66% gross margin. Sound good? Cool. Awesome. All right. Who wants to share their answer first?
I think we're just for like market.
Which group said they finished? You guys said you were like done in like 30 seconds. So let's hear your amazingness. Please enlighten us all.
We said that
Yes, go ahead.
we think we would, before we give it to Kendall Jenner, we would ship over a decent amount more, just
Okay.
anticipating that it's going to kind of flow up or
Makes sense.
whatever.
Yep.
And then kind of have Kendall like be part of our launch process.
Okay.
Like when we decide to launch, it would be like, hey, well, this is sponsored, or not sponsored, but this is
Okay.
endorsed by Kendall
So
Jenner.
you're keeping the Kendall Jenner component. You're going to work with her, it sounds like. Okay, cool. Awesome. Next group, go ahead.
We're going to work with her, but we're
Okay.
also going to anticipate demand by having on our website an option to pre-order.
Okay.
So that we have the capital
Love
to,
that.
to
Love the
get,
idea of a pre-order system.
cover with it.
So that was something that we were thinking about, but one thing to keep in mind that might be difficult now to think about, but no one asked the question. Basically, guys, we have like 4 days to make a decision. It's not a huge amount of time. So when these types of opportunities with a Kendall Jenner pop up, your window to make a decision is extremely short, but love that type of suggestion, so that's fantastic. Next, go ahead.
For the first question.
Yes.
I would say like to expect the brand to grow from the US to the other countries of the world because
Yep.
it's just so popular. And
Yes.
Just to think that demand is going to increase really a lot.
Okay, very cool. So from your side, you're going to still work with her, but you're going to take more like maybe a global approach, not even too much of a US focused approach?
Yeah, because I feel like everybody knows her, so everybody's going to like want one after that.
Yeah.
So.
No doubt. Awesome, awesome. Let's do 2 more minutes. Any other questions? Anyone have something different that they came up with that they want to share? Go ahead.
Our group came up with a different approach. It's more like having an exclusive contract with a manufacturer.
Love that. See, now that is the right way to be thinking.
Before
Okay.
you launch your product, there could be some other company that's watching you do it, and they can take over. They can contact the manufacturer, and you're going to buy more than what they're buying. And,
Yep.
why don't you give it to us?
Absolutely.
And if you do the exclusive contract that you're going to be the only supplier in North America, then you have that exclusively to yourself.
I love that.
before
Yeah.
you become public.
So I love that solution. The only thing I will throw out there to you, because we're here to educate all of you. Sometimes over in China, there's a little bit of backdoor dealing that takes place. So even though they might sign an agreement that says you have this exclusive, which it sounds like would have been a great approach to take, there is still that potential that they kind of not abide by it, but it's the right way to be thinking about what we're about to embark on, which is a nutty roller coaster ride. Okay, so great stuff. Go ahead, last point, and then we'll move on.
What do you do like a percent for the rest of the country?
Say one more time.
The whole country?
Yes.
Only for the factor that you write down into your product. Try to do that.
I don't know if I'm understanding the question exactly. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's the master. I just can't hear it.
But percent?
Oh, patent. Patent. Oh, so, okay. I'm sorry. Yes, so the patent concept is really like from our side, the way in which we're thinking about how we're going to brand this product. We're buying, essentially, think of it as the Cadillac version of the hoverboard. It's not any $200 crappy hoverboard that we're selling. We're selling a really premium end product. And the idea of us being able to communicate that, because it's the truth, being able to communicate that to customers is one of the ways in which we're thinking we can kind of align Kendall's notoriety with our premium product. Is that clear? Okay. You guys ready to hear what happens next? Yeah? Yeah? Okay, cool. Here we go. So, what happens next is the following. We decided to give Kendall Jenner 1 free hoverboard. So we decided to work with her, okay? And what happens is the following. Kendall gets the hoverboard, and she posts a video that blows up the internet, okay? Like literally next day, TMZ's covering it, every freaking outlet is covering this video that Kendall posts. And in less than 24 hours, this video has over 1 million likes and over 50,000 comments, okay? Our Instagram account for Funky Duck was at 0 followers on one day and at over 20,000 the next day, okay? She posts this incredible video that you're gonna see in a second, and she tags our account, and my freaking phone here did not stop ringing with notifications for probably a good 3 days. Like literally 3 days straight of non-stop follower-related action, okay? Here's the fantastic video that she posted. Check it out. So, she's in her kitchen. She gets her on turn number 1.
You got that turn down. It's like a racetrack for you.
She gets her on turn number 2, but then she gets a little bit too cocky on turn number 3. And what happens? She busts her ass, okay? In her own apartment. That's what she posted on social media. Did anyone ever see that video by any chance before today? Okay, sometimes when I'm in audiences with younger folks, they might have seen it before. So that video goes live on Instagram, okay? Over 1 million likes, over 50,000 comments. And what do you think happens next, my friends? From there, it was a domino effect. Because what happened next, you think? Our boy Justin Bieber wants a hoverboard for him and his buddies, right? And then, you know, Jamie Foxx comes calling saying, I will go on the Jimmy Fallon Tonight Show if you get me one hoverboard right now, and I'll shout your brand out on national television. And then who else? Chris Brown. J.R. Smith during the NBA Finals 2015, the Cavaliers versus the Golden State Warriors, he hits us up saying, I'm going to ride your hoverboard into the locker room if you just give me one hoverboard for free. Kendall Jenner's got a hoverboard. I need a hoverboard because I'm the coolest guy in the NBA, okay? That's the type of outreach we're getting from folks. Wiz Khalifa, Kevin Hart, Ryan Lochte, you name it, all these people start knocking on our door needing a hoverboard because if Kendall Jenner's got one, they need one. And guess what happens next? Jamie Foxx decides to deliver on what we thought he was going to do.
So this is a funky duck. That one, yes, a funky duck. So you want to try it? It's the cold part, but I can't get off. I just slowed down. I'm like,
Unbelievable, right? On national television, okay? National television. What do you think happens next? J.R. Smith kept his word. This is during the NBA Finals, Game 1. An hour before this video gets recorded on ESPN, he's on his Instagram account saying, thanks so much, Funky Duck, for hooking me up with my first hoverboard. Check this out.
Folks are ready to go. So apparently is J.R. Smith. This is how you arrive from work, apparently. He hasn't exactly been rolling in the finals so far. He's shooting 34%. But happy to be here nonetheless.
oh, man. You know me, Mr. Gadget. I need one.
Right? Unbelievable, right? Okay, so that type of traction starts building. And what else happens? Well, major companies, television shows start calling us up, wanting hoverboards too, right? You know, Staples is looking to sell hoverboards inside of all of its stores all of a sudden. And, you know, Shark Tank's calling us up saying, guys, if you want to be on Shark Tank tomorrow, you'll cut the line, we'll put you on tomorrow. That's how cool this device was starting to make rounds in, okay? CNBC calls us up saying, we want you on Squawk Box to interview you. That actually happened, literally. Closing bell. Not Squawk Box, closing bell. They bring us on to talk about the hoverboard product. So literally all these major media entities, television shows start reaching out wanting Funky Ducks as well. And sales are soaring, right? Sales are absolutely soaring. Over $1 million in sales in less than 8 weeks, right? With incredible margins. Someone over, I think the other table had asked, you know, what our cost was and everything, with basically like 66% gross margins, right? So we're selling this thing for $1,500, we're getting for about $500 with shipping. Okay, so we're making about $1,000 on every one of these sales, okay? Pretty awesome. And so you're probably thinking, it's time for me to retire in Florida, right? And this is not connected to me living in Florida, just so you know, okay? I only moved to Florida a year ago. This is 2015, but very simply, you're probably thinking, let's post up on the beach, sip some pina coladas, right? Just chill out. not give a care in the world. I'm 24, 25 years old at the time, right? Like, life is good. Let's just quit while we're ahead, right? This is probably what happened, right? No, someone's got to shake their head, right? Good. No, my friends, because this is only when the problems begin, okay? This is absolutely wrong. Why? What are some of the problems that start popping up? Well, we've got China problems on our hands, right? What are some of these China problems that we have on our hands? Well, we are extremely low on inventory, as you can imagine, right? We started off with these 24 or so hoverboards. Beaver and all his buddies are calling us one hoverboard, so we're running out of inventory pretty quickly. And we've got over 150 orders that need to be fulfilled, literally, after the Kendall Jenner post, okay? We get some more inventory from China, but we're low on inventory, okay? That's the bottom line. We've got copycat products starting to pop up on like Amazon, Alibaba, right? Devices that are not called Funky Ducks, devices that look slightly different from ours, but they're popping up in some of these different web shops, okay? And customers are starting to call us, getting a little bit concerned about when they're going to receive their order, right? You know, just paid $1,500 for this device. When are they going to get it, right? So it's starting to like be a little bit of rumblings about that topic. Okay. So what do you think happens next? Well, what happens next is I give you another cliffhanger, okay? What happens next is you're going to get 2 more minutes to ask me whatever questions you have up until this point in the story. I'll answer as many as I can, assuming that it doesn't give away the rest of the story. And then from there, you get 5 minutes to try and answer these 2 remarkably difficult questions. How would you handle the interest coming from these other A-list celebrities and news outlets and television programs wanting Funky Ducks? How are you going to handle that? What business support practices and mechanisms would you put in place to properly control the virality Funky Duck is experiencing? Okay? Just like slightly difficult questions, right? Not that I'll give you 5 minutes, but who's got a question? And I'll provide an answer. Go ahead.
Did you guys ever intend to have celebrity clientele or having celebrities in your network? Or was that just by chance when you?
Yeah, so once that domino effect started, right, that influencer marketing go-to-market strategy we were talking about like 10 slides ago, started to really feel like it made a lot of sense to double down on that, right? Feel me? Answer your question?
Yeah, it just came from Daveville, right? Like it wasn't anything that you guys really intended for until you met them.
At that point, the organic interest in our product from these other celebrities wasn't even Dave necessary. These people started reaching out directly. Their agents reaching out directly. Some of them went through Dave because they knew Dave, of course, but we were getting our inbox flooded with emails, calls, flooded, right? Make sense? Did you have a question?
Yeah, so in terms of like the cheaper models, do you have any concern about them being associated with your brand in terms of safety and quality?
Absolutely, yeah. We start seeing these copycats popping up in the marketplace, and we're starting to think, what exactly are they offering, right? We're thinking, wait, could they be getting it from our factory, the patented device? But how so if they're only charging $3 or $4 or $5 or $6 or $700 for it, right? And we're charging $1,500. So we're starting to kind of wrap our brains around that concept, but we don't have the answer, right? Because they're popping up left and right? So we don't know who those other guys are. We're just trying to sort of dig into the weeds of what might be different about their product, where are they getting it? Those are the questions that we're kind of asking ourselves, right? Go ahead.
Did you try to protect your product to make sure that these copycats couldn't copy your product beforehand?
Yeah, so from a protection standpoint, the way you should be thinking about protection at the moment is the following. We've got this awesome brand that we built, right? It's getting all this backing from all these celebrities, okay? And it's skyrocketing, right? Like we are going viral like no other, okay? The product-wise, we have this Chinese patent, which won't hold up here in the States. But from a quality assurance standpoint, from a safety standpoint, from all the battery mechanics and electrical engineering side of things, right? The batteries and everything, we feel like we're in very good hands because it's passed all those different said safety regulations because it's coming from that premier factory. Our ability, up until this point in the story, where we're at right now, to protect additional things on the product, what you should be thinking about is, yes, we started to engage an IP, intellectual property lawyer in the States about seeing what things we could do on the product for us to get some of our own Funky Duck intellectual property. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Cool. Who's got another question? Yes, you two. You guys both raised your hand at the same time just now. What's up with that?
So my question is, so how were you guys selling the product? Was it just like a website, or were you, how was like the selling process? Did you have any stores, or was it just like the website? Like, because you said you had like $1 million worth of
Yeah, so
orders in 8 weeks.
the way you should be thinking about how we're selling the product right now is basically 95% on our website. Does that answer your question? Go ahead.
Have you thought about, since you made such a huge sale in such a short amount of time, have you thought about manufacturing the product in your own warehouse in the United States, and have you taken any steps towards it?
Yeah, so the ability for us to manufacture this product in the US is not on our radar right now. We don't have that capacity, capability. That's a lot more money, a lot more intellectual manpower that we don't have at the moment, right? We're just trying to keep up with the demand. So you could come up with maybe an answer in your answers during the breakout sessions related to that, but it's not something that we're actually actively thinking about. Is that clear? Sound good? Who else got a question? Any other questions? We're good? Okay. You got 5 minutes to come up with the answers to both of those 2 questions, and it is 1:23. So go ahead. Let's go. Let's do it.
I don't know what I would do about the celebrities, but I would say like for the business, I would make like the website so like shipping could be between like don't promise 7 days, like say it could be like up to a month or something like that.
We're just gonna make your outreach grow even more, and then you're not gonna have enough stock to like keep up with the demand from like actual customers. So you have to like pick and choose who you want to, and who's gonna give you the most amount of outreach for that person. Yeah.
Right, because then they could go and get one of the cheaper ones and endorse that, and everyone's gonna want a cheaper one.
I feel like you also have
They're telling us.
Okay.
So that's what we're telling our customers, right?
Okay.
And then we're telling them, hey, yeah, we'll give you $100 grand, you'll send over more hardware. We're saying, yep, no problem, make that happen. That's what you should be thinking right
And
now.
how long was shipping taking?
Yeah, so we're being told that it was going to take us about a full week, 7 full business days for us to get our product from China into the US, and through all the customs and all that stuff.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
Wait, so wait, really? So is there rush shipment like to the customers from China?
The office. What's up? How we doing?
Good.
A little bit more challenging this time?
Yeah. Did you guys ever think about putting out a notice saying, oh, look, due to volume of inquiries, we're having a difficult time, back over or something like that?
So there's no doubt that on the customer support front, we are actively telling our customers, like, hey, we're experiencing a minor delay. Hey, we're experiencing a minor delay, right? You're going to learn very shortly what those delays look like. I'm not going to give it away right this second, but if you try to piece 2 and 2 together, that's kind of where we might be headed, okay? But yes, we are actively answering calls, answering emails from said customers who are inquiring about what the status of their order is, and we're coming up with the best talk track humanly possible to try and cater to those inquiries. Okay? But yes, we're not like lying to them saying
We make it this for us this quick. You know, the profit they're making.
Somebody's got to take a trip to China, walk the plant, say, what's the problem here? And is it the electrical components you can't find? Is there anything we can do to help you, increase the speed up? Can we loan you money to expand your operation into another warehouse?
like a couple hundred, maybe 200 grand.
So it was still like a really small brand, right?
Extremely small brand.
Alright.
But overnight, we're not all of a sudden a small brand. Overnight, we're this incredibly awesome, fascinating, never before seen device. And we're the brand behind it. Right? Because she tagged us on Instagram. She said something like, thanks Funky Duck for, or she said, this was her exact line. She said, in her caption, she wrote, got to copy at Funky Duck. After that video. So everyone seeing her ride on that thing, they know that she's referring to the device. And and they click on Funky Duck, and boom, there's us. So we are all immediately labeled as like the inventor, the founders, everything about this product, right? That's immediately how we're positioned. Is that clear?
Yeah, so just we were wondering though, like, were you able to communicate with her, like, team at all about when this video would be released, like anything like that, if you guys weren't ready for it to skyrocket, or do you guys didn't anticipate any skyrocketing?
So remember, we get like a 3-4 day period to make a decision to work with her.
Right.
Get that product out to her, put all trust in her at that point.
So you guys only were able to like communicate on how long you would have a decision for her, but not when you guys could.
We were not communicating with her on what type of video she was going to post.
Or like
that was going to be her discretion. She just told us she's going to tag us, and that's exactly what she did, and now you see what happened afterwards. Is that clear?
So just like, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on the hiring decision? Like, were you trying to expand your team, like having more people to handle like supply, media and all that stuff?
Yeah. So you should be thinking at this point in the story that we are a 20-person team, and that half of that team is college interns like yourself.
Okay.
Okay? They're the ones that are shipping out the product, they're the ones that are packing the boxes. Myself, my 2 founders, a couple other people, we're trying to make some of the key decisions like what I'm making you decide right now. Make sense? Cool. Okay. Give me a time check.
328 or 128.
128? Okay, sweet. 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes. Any questions? Yeah. Go ahead.
You asking any questions for that?
You would call custom about not
this is someone
who selling a premium product, right?
Doesn't need this product.
You're going to tell them about the not,
but they're willing to work with you as long as you set it right. That's basically the deal. You can't ask for any discretion for her account. Like you don't have that large. You don't have it's not your account. Say again. Funky Duck no longer exists. Funky Tree was the sister company that was selling the iPhone accessories. Remember I mentioned that they were selling like earbuds and cases? That's what that was. Okay? All good? Awesome. You all ready? I mean, all good, guys? All good back there? All right. Who went first last time? You guys went first last time, so I won't pick on you. You guys went first. What do you got? No?
So for the first one, we kind of said, since there's other competitors offering their product a bit cheaper,
yep.
Different variations of the product.
Yep, love that.
Keep the premium, but still have the cheaper versions.
Love it. And how would you handle the interest coming from the celebrities? What would you do?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard.
Would you hook either up?
Yeah.
Would you hook eating talks up? Well,
I feel like we would. Still have to be like kind of selective on who we take.
Okay. So take more of a selective process.
Yeah, but definitely still keep the interest.
Yes. So one thing that I love about that is being super disciplined on the selection criteria, so that we come back. Okay. Next, you guys, what's going?
So we said something similar with handling the interest from like the celebrities, where we want to be like super selective with it, making sure that when we're picking them, they're going to be doing something that's going to get the most amount of outreach when we pick them, not just like hooking up somebody.
Okay. So biggest bang for your buck type of thing, right?
Yeah.
Only the biggest A-listers then? Is that what you're getting out of it, or not even necessarily?
Like something like how Jimmy Fox went on the Tonight Show,
That's
like that kind of thing.
Yeah, we call that earned media promotion, right? Earned media promotion, where you're getting that type of, whether it's journalistic type coverage, Squawk Box, Closing Bell, or a Jimmy Fallon Tonight Show, okay? Who else? Let's see, who else can I call on? You guys had answers in the back. I was talking to you, what were you thinking? You were calling up Border Patrol, you said, right?
Yeah, I said call Border Control, there are coming dangerous products into the US.
Okay.
The citizens.
Okay, okay. So we're, just brute force, storming the Customs Agency, CPSC, Consumer Product Safety Commission, get all this crap out of here. Yeah. We're legit, that's what we're doing. Okay, I love it. I love it. It's ferocious. It's a good ferocious strategy right there. What do you got?
For the second one, we said probably
hire employees to help you fulfill the demand that's going on, and then be really like careful who to select, because you already gave out enough for those free products. And then you kind of want to fulfill the customer because they are paying for it. So they're going to be mad if they don't receive it.
Oh, they're going to be really mad. You're going to learn about how mad they are in a second.
Other ones that they can wait because it's a free gift anyway.
Yeah. Anyone have anything else different that they want to share? Go ahead.
I was just thinking about taking the route of, in regards to the second question, specifically taking the route of, you know, something like Supreme where you market yourself as like a product with scarcity, and because you already have a lot of demand, and like you can just, because you're already a premium product too, you can just market it as like a limited drop, and then you can do sections of limited drop, you know.
So sort of like staggering out when you sell this product, right? Like we're the premium guys, so we only sell it like, you know, these 2 weeks out of every month, right? And then you gotta wait till, and if you're buying the other crap, you can buy it any day of the week, but it's crap. Okay, interesting. I don't know if I've ever really heard that. That's good. That's an interesting approach right there. Very cool. Do you guys want to hear what happens next, or you're not interested?
I'm very interested.
Yeah, you do? Okay. I'm just kidding. Okay, cool. Well, what happens next is the following, guys. Those China problems that we were speaking about before, they not only persist, they worsen, and they worsen dramatically. Someone before was asking me about time frame of receiving products. Well, our factory guys was just straight up lying to us, lying to our faces. They would say your products are coming on this day, and they're coming on that day, and then they're coming on that day. So much so that on average, the delay in shipment from the time that they told us to when it actually showed up in our office, at a minimum, there's 4 weeks of delay. Okay? 4 weeks. We're waiting a full month before anything shows up in our office from the previous day that they told us. Is that clear? Okay. Not only that, but guess what? China's on the other side of the planet. Okay? Freaking 12-hour time zone differences. So our 9 a.m. is their 9 p.m. Their 9 p.m. is our 9 a.m. All that gets really, really challenging when they're only available at their 2 p.m. Oh, so that's our 2 in the morning. Right. That's helpful. Okay. On top of that, incomprehensible discussions, conversations, trying to figure out where our inventory is, okay? WhatsApp conversations, Skype conversations, over text, over, Audible, which is like completely, just an absolute struggle to have these types of conversations with them and figure out where our inventory is, right? Okay, guess what? It doesn't stop there, because what else happens? Who said angry customers? You did. Angry customers, like this fantastic individual. Why did we have such angry customers? Well, we had what are called early adopter customers. You guys have probably heard of that term before, right? Early adopter customers. These customers crave owning the product now. They don't want to wait. They're early adopters for a reason. They outlaid $1,500 for a reason. They want to tell all their boys and all their friends that they got a Funky Duck hoverboard before anyone else did, right? You know those types of people that are really into that stuff. So they don't give a shit that we screwed up our fulfillment inventory purposes, issues, right? Think they really care? They're going to call us yelling and screaming, just like this guy in the background, because they want their $1,500 Funky Duck hoverboard now. Okay? What else happens next? Well, we started to get customer disputes, real customer disputes. We are collecting funds off of people's credit cards. Someone mentioned pre-order earlier, okay? That would have maybe been a way to stopgap this, okay? But we were collecting funds off of people's credit cards immediately. Yet, we don't have the adequate inventory to fulfill these said orders when, let's call it a 3 to 5 day period, right? And without the product to fulfill orders, all of a sudden we've got some real serious fulfillment inventory complications starting to take place that are really nasty and annoying to get out of, okay? Like, you don't want to be in those situations. They suck. And what happens? Well, 4 weeks go by, because we have this 4-week delay, and these real, honest, early adopter customers, they still don't have their Funky Duck. So what do? They call up Amex or Visa, and they say, hey, I ordered this $1,500 device from the Funky Duck. It doesn't come, I'd like my money back. And what do the credit cards companies do? They, just issue it as fraud, and they give you your money back, right? How are we doing on time, by the way? Quickly, or actually, okay.
We're
What happens next? Not only real customers start disputing, but we have fake fraudulent customers starting to hit us up. And what do you think happens here? Well, these fake online fraudsters started infiltrating our website and stealing honest people's credit cards, just like all of you here in this room, and stealing it without you even knowing it. And so what happens when your credit card gets compromised or someone, frauds you? Well, in 4 weeks, you got this nice guy in the background who gets his credit card statement in the mail, and it says a $1,500 funky duck on it. And the honest, person whose credit cards got stolen is like, what the hell is that? Right? And what do? They call up their credit card company and they say, I don't know what this $1,500 hoverboard purchase from Funky Duck is, but I would like my money back, please, because I never transacted this payment. I don't even know what the hell this is. Okay? So they start disputing the payments. And what happens when that happens? Well, it's a pretty shitty situation because we lose out on those $1,500 of funds that we thought was real, but in fact it was fake, right? That's one bad thing. That's the money that was liquid funds in our bank, like the sort of working capital. You probably heard that term, right? That's like our cash flows that we're going to be leveraging in the future. That's now all of a sudden gone. And we shipped the units that were so precious gold to fraudsters, right? Oh my gosh, oh my god. Yeah, I know it's bad. So we shipped the unit to a fraudster at a fake address, right? Or the actual address of a fraudster. Meanwhile, 4 weeks later, the customer whose credit card was stolen goes ahead and disputes the payment, and we're out the money. Okay. You might think it stops there. It doesn't. Because guess what happens next? There were all these disputes coming in, left and right, left and right. And guess what? The banks and the credit card companies that fund these said transactions, right, and do all the stuff in the back-end magic, right, for you to be able to buy things, they don't like disputes. And when you have too many disputes, guess what happens? Your account gets suspended. And then when your account gets suspended, what happens? Your funds in the bank get frozen. Why? Because when you sign that contract with the bank, you know how there's like all those terms and conditions that no one ever reads, right? Guess what? In those terms and conditions, there's a clause that says, if you have too many fraudulent payments or too many disputes, we have the right to freeze your money. You can't touch it, anything, for a minimum of 6 months. Okay? So the banks froze at one point over $1 million worth of what was previously liquid funds that we thought we had that was all of a sudden frozen by the bank, right? Pretty unbelievable. Okay, so let's bring this thing back home, this presentation back home. What ended up happening? Well, you might recall, someone I think at that table over there asked about the fires and mini batteries and stuff. Guess what? Those same knockoff hoverboards that were infiltrating the market, that were showing up on Alibaba and everything for super, super inexpensive rates, they started having battery malfunctions. They started catching on fire. Mike Tyson almost broke his back riding on one, as one of you guys mentioned, right? Because they didn't really turn very well. They were much, one of the patents that we had with our device was a very smooth sailing turning functionality, whereas some of these cheap knockoffs that were being built in China with crappy batteries had some turning malfunction issues. And so it triggered an enormous amount of negative publicity by holiday season 2015. You might recall, home burns down due to exploding hoverboard, or person gets sent to the hospital due to, exploding hoverboard, whatever it might be. And then in Q1 2016, guess what happens? The government stepped in and banned the device. Why? Because of all these exploding hoverboards happening everywhere. They were like, what the hell is going on? This product, this global phenomenon is just taking over, yet people are like losing their homes, going to the hospital because of them. Like, we gotta iron fist, put a clamp on this thing before this gets way too out of control. So like the wild, wild west. And so after that happened, FedEx stopped allowing you to ship the product, right? Because they deemed the product unsafe. They didn't want a battery exploding midair, right? That would be bad. So they banned it, the government banned it, and I came to grips with the fact that this product was just bad. And after 14 months, I left the company, right? About 6 months after I left, some of the other employees left the company. And then, ironically enough, nutty enough, some of our hoverboards were stored in a warehouse. That warehouse just happened to go on fire one day. So like, just everything just completely went to crap. And you might be asking, well, how could this happen to us, right? How could it happen to us? Well, let's go over some of those lessons learned. Well, The first thing to cover is the concept of the first mover advantage. The first mover advantage is the following. We were first to market with the product. We were the ones that created this tidal wave of viral traction, right? And as a result of creating that tidal wave of massive traffic, of traction, it resulted in massive amounts of web traffic coming to our website through all the influencers and the CNBCs and the Yahoo, business news covering our company. And even though it's only a sliver or a slice of that web traffic that are the fraudsters, there's a huge number of people that all of a sudden, even that sliver that are coming to our website, who are fraudulent online web visitors, right? And they're out there just stealing people's credit cards left and right. That's what they do. And they would come and infiltrate our website, and we became a serious target for the fraudsters. Why? Because when Kendall Jenner is riding around in a funky duck and not the Joe Schmo, cheap knockoff, what do the fraudsters want? They want the premium product, right? So they started coming after us specifically because we're the $1,500 premium version of the hoverboard versus the crappy knockoffs like on Canal Street in New York City for $300. Okay? So we were a target for it. And ultimately, from a team perspective, we just didn't have the e-commerce, supply chain, technical talent to handle the immense amount of problems that were popping up. The best way to describe it would be like we would solve one problem, but 3 new ones would pop up, right? Like, and it was just a continuous 14-month period, basically, of that, right? And let's just wrap up with some lessons learned from the experience. So, number 1, have a fraud detection service integrated into your website, especially if you're going to be in the e-commerce space, okay? Why? Because oftentimes a lot of standard e-com websites that you might use for maybe a new venture you guys might launch, they have some fraud detection built in, but these guys are so good, they can easily get around those said barriers that are protecting you. And ultimately, there are dedicated fraud detection solutions out there that literally focus entirely their business model on just protecting e-com websites. So integrate one of those into your website. Have adequate inventory prior working with influencers, right? I think that's a pretty obvious one, right? We very quickly were on back order of our product, more or less out of the gates, right? Pretty nuts, but true. Have someone in China overseeing your factory's production. So there are consultants in China that literally specialize in helping American companies by being that person in the factory overseeing your product's production amounts. That would have been something fantastic to have had because they probably spoke better English than the people we were talking to at our factory, and they could have been a little bit more honest about how we could contingency plan our way out of the shitty situation we're in, to put it frankly. Don't get caught up in celebrity mirages. I love talking about this. Specifically, when you get the chance to work with Kendall Jenner. Someone asked me if I had met Kendall or whatnot, right? Like, when you get the chance to work with these celebrities and your company is just skyrocketing, going viral, right? You sort of create this mirage in your head that everything is just working out beautifully, right? But meanwhile, obviously underneath the surface, not so much, right? As you guys can tell from today. And so you want to try and avoid and not get caught up in those celebrity mirages if in fact any of you ever get the chance to work, with one of those grade A type celebrities or even other types of enormous institutions. You want to make sure you try and differentiate yourself from the competition, right? So that's easier said than done, but there are things that maybe we could have done from a communication standpoint, right? When we were getting interviewed by Yahoo News or CNBC, maybe we could have been leading off with, we have the patented version of this device, everything else is crap, right? Maybe a little bit nicer than that, but you know what I'm saying, right? Like, we could have differentiated ourselves better, but instead, all these frickin' devices looked identical, right? And so no one could tell the difference between left and right, option A, option B, option Z, right? It was very, very difficult. And the last two things, number 6 and 7, kind of tied together, and that is the following, which is there are serious factors that entrepreneurs like yourselves must consider prior to just hoping and wishing and dreaming that your business goes viral. Why? Because if the proper planning is not conducted ahead of time, right, in order to make sure that your virality that you're experiencing can be controlled properly, you can ultimately jeopardize your business, which is what happened here. And hence, when going viral fucking sucks. Okay, so that is just about it for my presentation. Just so you guys know some of what I've been doing since my Funky Duck days. So right afterwards, I started writing a book, started blogging, podcasting, started building this like emerging media brand called When Going Viral. I actually like put on my big boy shoes and like got a real job after all my entrepreneurial nuttiness. In November 2016 through January 2019, I worked in sales at a children's ed tech company called Little Bits. It's kind of like a 21st century Lego company. And you see someone nodding, you know about it. Awesome. Love that. Then I was full-time at WeWork doing marketing just before the pandemic for a year. And you know, these days I am a sales and marketing consultant. I'm back in the entrepreneurial waters. I've created like a mini consulting business, you can think about it as. I've got about a half a dozen international companies that I consult for, where I kind of act as like their US general manager, you can think of. And finally, I'm like pursuing my public speaking career, part of why I'm here today. Hopefully I did a decent job, doing these awesome educational workshops, what you just experienced today, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. And if you guys know any other organizations, schools, friends, and classes similar to what you're in today that you think would be interested in bringing me in, I would truly, truly appreciate the opportunity to do it. And aside from that, thank you so, so much for listening to my story. If you could do each of the 3 following things below, I would truly, truly appreciate it. Number 1 is fill out the short survey that's listed over there, bit.ly/3AGBKAK. It's cap sensitive, so be mindful of that. I would love to hear what you thought about today. It's a short 2-minute survey, but would really, really appreciate you filling that out so I know how I did. On top of that, you can follow my media brand, When Going Viral, at When Going Viral, and at Max Ringelheim on social media. I would truly appreciate it as I continue to talk and share lessons learned from my past and my entrepreneurial career, as well as other awesome viral stories that are out there that I love to cover. And finally, like I mentioned just before, if you know any organizations, schools, classes, teachers, professors, etc., who would be interested in learning about this workshop, please let me know. That is my personal email. I told MGG315 earlier today that I am more than happy to be of service and of help to every one of you as a former alumni. And so if you have any questions, there's my contact info. I'll give you a card. It has my cell phone number. And yeah, thank you so, so much. So I really, really appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you. Cool, so we got 10 minutes of Q&A, if that's good with you. Did you guys enjoy it? Yeah. Okay, good. Who's got a question? I'm sure there's some other questions. I'm happy to answer. Go ahead, in the back.
At any point when things started going downhill and most of the issues were like occurring from, you know, your manufacturing in China, did you ever think to maybe get up and go to China / look for another manufacturer?
Yeah, it's a great question. So my 2 roommates, they went to China, actually. I think it was June of 2015, maybe July 2015, while things were just literally going crazy, right? But they felt the need to go over there, talk to our manufacturer, try and get a sense of what the deal was with, you know, production capacity, shipping capacity, right? All that good stuff. During that trip, in fact, they actually went and visited some other factories to consider bringing in a lower cost alternative. Our better judgment though decided not to do that because, you know, we just felt like, you know, we wanted to continue to try and brand ourselves as this premium product. Also would have been like unkosher, like ethically, to be starting to sell crap when we're trying to sell, you know, the actual premium brand. So in the end we decided not to, but we brought a couple of those crappy ass knockoffs to the States to like test them out ourselves, to like make the decision like comprehensively, if that makes sense, right? Like we didn't want to just like say in China, oh yeah, we're not going to do it. Like we wanted to evaluate it. Yeah. And you could just tell when you would ride those alternatives, the turning capacity and just there was issues with it that just didn't feel right, you know? And compared with ours, that felt, it was awesome to ride. Ours were like just so much smoother, and unfortunately you couldn't tell that on the surface, right? You couldn't tell that unless you rode one. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Cool. Who else got a question? I saw someone raise their hand. Go ahead.
Do you guys ever think of like just coming up with a new product instead of staying with the hoverboards, like the electric scooters, how they're getting big nowadays?
Yeah, it's so funny you asked that. I mean, you know, there was a couple of things that we wanted to do. So just like how Bird and Lime, I'm assuming you're referring to, right? Those scooter sharing businesses. You know, they have a GPS in it. You just find one and then go and ride it, right? That was actually, in fact, what we were hoping to do with hoverboards, right? We wanted to try and distinguish our product in that capacity. For the person who asked about intellectual property, that was one of the ways we were going to try to get some protections on the business. In terms of other products, the guys, as I mentioned, that I was roommates with, my two co-founders, they had a mobile accessories company. So they were already selling other products. This was the new shiny object that everyone was loving. And so, by the time I left, because I just knew it was a fad, I wasn't really interested in doing something new with these guys. Like you can imagine, like it was just a wild, wild west type of situation. There's a lot of stuff that I didn't share today, but that like is the other 75% of the story, right? Like there's a ton of other meat on this bone that, I only had an hour to talk today, but hence why I have like a book outline, and I've been working on like a movie treatment concept, for maybe a documentary and things like that, could be really super awesome for people to hear more about how it all worked out. Who else got a question? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so...
You guys didn't raise your hand together.
Yeah, it didn't work out this time, I don't know how. But if you could, like, going back to I know we kind of talked about it, but like if you could go back to the place where, you had 4 days to decide if you wanted to take upon that offer with Kendall Jenner, would you do it, and what would you do differently from like that stage if you're at that stage?
That's a fantastic question. So I think the best way to answer that is hindsight 2020. I would have looked at the 1, 2, 3, 4 months prior to that Kendall Jenner moment, right? That's the right way to, I mentioned not jeopardizing your business, proper planning. It would have been that type of planning, which by the way, like from some of my corporate America jobs, I've gotten so much more visibility into how to conduct that type of planning, right? The other companies I mentioned, they've had some pretty fascinating products as well that they've launched, not on the same scale as the hoverboard, but you get an understanding of things like supply chain and operational planning that would have been the maybe 2 or 3 months leading up to that Kendall Jenner moment. I mean, when you get that opportunity to work with a Kendall Jenner, right? What I've noticed is you just open up yourselves to incredible opportunities, right? So to say that I wouldn't have done it would be, I think, probably not my answer, but I would have put myself in a much better position, ideally, to handle the virality better that would have come from that moment. And that's one of the other workshops that I do. Today you heard the sort of soup to nuts story of the hoverboard, right? The rise and fall. Like one of my workshops that's evolved out of all this public speaking is like a workshop on how to go viral, but control virality properly. Right? Which is a topic that I don't believe really ever gets covered, but helps alleviate, the reason why you just, hope, wish, and dream it without a plan. Does that make sense? Yep. Cool. Go ahead. My customs friend over there. Yes.
At the end.
In the end,
all credit card stuff was fixed. Did you guys make money?
Yeah, great question. So my two co-founders probably both made about $500,000 each to $1 million, somewhere in that range. On my front, what I tell people is I saved up enough money from the venture to live in New York City for 3.5 years. It was not, retire in Florida early money by any stretch. But
you lived a good life for that 3.5 years.
Yeah, and look at me now, right? Like I'm standing up here talking about it shamelessly, right? Like I love this. Like this is freaking awesome. This is the reason why I created this brand when going viral is because I felt almost like I had a duty after going through this experience, which I hope you guys found fascinating today because it's pretty wild. I almost felt like I had a duty to share with the broader business community the lessons learned from this experience, hence why I'm here today. So, for me personally, at 31 years old now, like, I'm stoked about the future. I'm stoked about what this workshop has given me the opportunity to do. Like, this is the first time I'm here in Buffalo doing it, hopefully many more in the future. And, yeah, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Cool.